You have to get to a place where you just have the natural ability. You put so much effort into the practice that when you get to the game, you just let the natural talent kind of come out. You have to have the process. The results will follow. If you try and make the results different, well, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. And I think that's kind of what Scottie Pippen is sort of guilty of here. Obviously, he's upset at the Last Dance. He's upset at the presumption that it was Michael Jordan's team. Michael was Batman. He was Robin. And all of the things that set him off about the documentary are what's led to so many of the things that he said, including talking about LeBron, being the greatest. Like, everything is clouded. All of his judgment is clouded based upon how he feels like he was handled in the Last Dance. Now, again, my perspective, and I'm neutral. I know a lot of the people that were involved on that team. I know coaches that were there, and Tex Winter, who was on that staff. Tex Winter, my dad coached with him at Long Beach State. I remember meeting Michael Jordan his first year in the NBA. Like, I remember listening to conversations Tex talk about those teams. And so I do have some sort of basis of knowledge, but I didn't live it. I was a fan. I can tell you that having watched The Last Dance, and we talked about it, a year and a half ago when it was playing, like, I actually thought it had a really fair portrayal of Scottie Pippen. What he did against the Knicks in not wanting to go into the game was reprehensible actions. And it comes back around where Tony Kukoc actually makes the shot. Not getting surgery at the appropriate time in the offseason hurts the team. All of these things go into, and obviously he was upset about a contract, but he signed the contract. I don't know if they really grabbed him before he signed the contract saying, don't sign this, it's too long. And he did because he had all those family members, including his dad and his brother, that were wheelchair bound. I don't know the reality of that because none of us were around. We can only take everybody's word for it. And he didn't push back against that. But what I can tell you is Scottie Pippen was a great basketball player. He's widely regarded as a great basketball player. And despite his misgivings, despite some of the attitude stuff, despite not wanting to go into the game, despite the fact that he never truly achieved greatness after the Chicago Bulls, probably never the same after the back, Michael Jordan did call him the greatest teammate he ever had, which Scottie found to be condescending. So Scottie Pippen has gone about this with writing a book, going on shows, and so much of it is becoming critical of Michael Jordan, including this.
I'm going to ask you this.
All right.
Is it easier to play with a herniated disc or to play with the flu?
They always say the worst injury to have is a bad back.
Well, I don't see many bad back games, but I do see flu games. Flu. Come on.
It's just embarrassing what he's doing. Right? It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. I mean, when you walked away from the documentary, you walked away going, what a great team. God, Jordan was not fun to play with. Scottie was all over the place, but must have been some incredible player. Right? And generally you walked away, and like Horace Grant joined us. He wasn't happy about it either, but Horace Grant did. He took a bigger contract. He went to the Orlando Magic. They beat the Chicago Bulls. And if not for Nick Anderson's free throws and the collapse against the Houston Rockets, maybe they keep that group together and maybe they become the next dynasty. But he took a bigger paycheck to go elsewhere. Where is the bitterness? Right? So with all of that in mind, it just feels like Scottie's trying to change the narrative that he's somehow the equal or the kingmaker to Jordan. And that just feels sad to me. It just does. Like, what about that film was so demeaning to you that you have to go about setting the record straight constantly? And while setting the record straight constantly is like, well, not only was Jordan this and that, but he just had the flu and I had a bad back. Like, dude, you're like, sound like a child. well, Johnny did this and Johnny did that. Like, what are you doing? I had no negative opinion of Scottie until this, when he said that Phil Jackson and calling a play for Tony Kukoc was racist. Like, all of the stuff, it's just, you want to scream. Scottie had the ball and had a chance to win the game the previous possession. He went with Tony Kukoc and Tony Kukoc hit the shot. Like, what am I missing here? The arrogance of it is embarrassing. I should have got to take the last shot. Well, okay, like, Jordan didn't take every last shot. He didn't. Don't believe me? Watch the film. So it's just sad to me that a guy who wants to rewrite his own legacy, that there was nothing wrong with his legacy. And you have so many people who are in the media and sports media that they weren't alive, or they didn't know, or maybe they think they could. Jordan was the best player on the planet. It wasn't close. No one mentioned Scottie. The year he sat out, they had the 1 year, and it was a nice little run. The next year they were a disaster, and Jordan came back in and kind of saved him. And it wasn't great, wasn't sharp, even playing baseball. And then they won 3 straight titles, and then it was over. And no one has had any sort of negative thing to say about Scottie. Matter of fact, I'm sure Scottie's probably most upset, not at not having the back surgery and how that's perceived, but at the Knicks thing where he didn't go in because again, so many people had forgotten about it. But you did these things. Like, this is the deal. You go back in your life, and those things, no one likes the bad moments pointed out. Yours truly included. I don't want those bad moments pointed out. But if the net at the end of the show, his greatest teammate ever had, like, all right, nothing you said wasn't true.